Well, Beowulf is a text, of course, that we never tire of studying, but it is not the only early medieval epic that is a pleasure to study and return to time and time again. And there is, of course, another early medieval epic that Uppsala Books has recently published an edition and translation of, and I'm referring to Voltarius,
Hmm.
translated by Brian Murdoch and edited by Leonard Neidorf. Steve, I wonder, what do you think of this book? Do you have any passages that struck you as particularly interesting?
The whole thing is fascinating, actually. If you've read the Old English fragment, the WALTHARIUS fragment, this gives you all the allusions that are in the WALTHARIUS fragment are quite difficult to get to grips with, but this gives you pretty much everything you could possibly want. There's no um, it's a much fuller context for the whole thing. I have I have to confess my medieval Latin is not as great as it should be. Um, so I've relied on Brian Murdoch's translation. I checked against the Latin whenever something struck me as particularly interesting, and I was struck by I think you've got in line 13, uh, quod precibus dominum iugitur precor omnitonantem. With all my prayers I implore God the Thunderer. And that struck me as a very odd image to put into a text like this, where at this point it's the prologue and it's the creator of the text apologizing for it being about the subject matter it is about and not uh, um, associated with promotion of the Christian cause. He starts off, O God, omnipotent, Christ in virtues content, and thou, equal of both, beloved Holy Ghost, in persons of Trinity, united in true divinity. So it starts off with a very pious sentiment. So why have a reference to God the Thunderer? And it's omnitonantem, all thundering, as I understand it, at least. That just struck me as an odd thing to put in. Um, God the Thunderer, God the High Thunderer, occurs in one of the Anglo-Saxon homilies, and I'm racking my brains to think which one it is. It might have been something that Alfred wrote. Um, in the context of a battle poem, I guess it's not that unusual to have so martial and physical and muscular an image before us. But yeah, the poem is a Latin paraphrase of something older and grislier, I assume, and maybe these little elements from the older poem have been retained, have sort of crept in under the translator's nose. But it just struck me as a very, as I say, a very muscular description of God that you wouldn't normally associate with a so pious a text as this.
And Steve, now you're the author of a book called Wayland's Work. Um,
Indeed.
so I think you might find it interesting to note and discuss the presence of a reference to Wayland's work, in fact, in Voltarius. And it occurs right around line 965.
Ecce repentino Randolph affleta cavallo, praevertens reliquos hunc importunus adivit. Ac mox ferato petiet sub pectore conto, et nisi duratis violanda fabrica giris, obstaret, spisso penetraverit ilia ligno. Then suddenly the warrior Randolph leapt upon his horse and rushed ahead before the other men and caught Waltari full on with his iron-tipped spear. Had Wayland's work, Waltari's ringmail not withstood the blow, the wooden spear shaft would have done its worst. Very, very full-on passage, very much in the spirit of medieval combat, of course. But why does the why does the poet say Wayland's work? This isn't the only, do excuse me. This isn't the only reference to Wayland's work that we have in medieval literature, because WELAND certainly occurs in reference to war gear, and specifically protective war gear. So the reference here to Wayland's work is very interesting and has resonances elsewhere, because the Old English equivalent expression "Waylandus your work" certainly appears in Beowulf in respect of a miraculously hardy and strong and stout mail coat, which will protect the chest of the warrior who wears it against blows. It clearly was a theme of early medieval verse, dealing with battles and warfare and the like. That the output of Wayland Smithy never failed. It always prevail against any weapon um, drawn against it. So, um, yeah, it's interesting to find that Wilder, the Old English Wilderer, has this reference, and it is there in the Latin epic dealing with the same subject. Clearly, it was a central part of the myth, or the legend, shall we say, dealing with Waltarius, and it was important enough to the poet of the original that it's come through both in the Old English tradition and the Latin sort of epitome of it.
Indeed, I think the reason perhaps for the presence of Wayland in both uh, Waldera and in Voltarius probably is clearest from the Old Norse text called Thithrek Saga or Dietrich Saga, because in that one we get uh, the figure of Wayland as a real character who is connected directly to the Walter story and connected to the Dietrich story, and is the creator of certain objects that figure into the narrative. And so I suppose that's why both of these texts include a reference to Wayland. Um, it isn't just that they make use of the same rhetorical trope, it's that there's actually a real connection from of the character Wayland to the character Walter, because
Gotcha.
Walter is connected to these other characters who are part of the whole German mythological cycle, as we know from various Middle High German sources.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think that's the deeper reason for it.